My 16th Malazan book, and I'm nowhere close to tired of these books. Join me to discover why. Welcome to Fantasy for the Ages. I'm Jim, the father of this father-son show, where we talk about fantasy, science fiction, and other nerdy stuff we enjoy. Today I've got a book review for you on Blood and Bone, a novel of the Malazan Empire, book 5 of a series by Ian C. Esslemont. Esslemont published this back in May of 2013, and I just read it. When I find a series that I enjoy, I want to enjoy it all. For the books of the Malazan series, that's a big ask, as there are like 24 books, all told, and a few more still being written. I've already completed all 10 of the books of Malazan Book of the Fallen by Stephen Erikson. I've also completed one of his short story collections, all about Corbel Brooch and Vauchelane. And then I've recently been enjoying progressing through the novels of the Malazan Empire by Esslemont. Esslemont is co-creator of the Malazan world with Erikson. One does not come over the other. They came up with these ideas, this setting together, and then they both write in the same sandbox. And it's just brilliant. The first of these Esslemont books, Knight of Knives, was great. And a big change in style from what I was reading of Erikson's Malazan Book of the Fallen at the time, because I read them publication-wise where these books by Esslemont fit within what Erikson was dropping. I found that refreshing. Not better or worse than what Erikson was done, just a different change of pace that I enjoyed. The second of his books, Return of the Crimson Guard, was much bigger than Knight of Knives and more challenging to get through. I was excited for it because, the Crimson Guard, they'd been mentioned in Malazan Book of the Fallen, and I had not gotten enough of what I wanted about these characters. So yes, I got some more. I felt like Esslemont overreached a bit in writing that book, though. He tried to do too much in just one novel. Parts were great, and the ending was fantastic, but I did, get a teeny bit bored at some of the earlier parts. Book 3, Stone Wielder, and Book 4, Orb, Scepter, Throne, were both excellent, returned back to the kind of pacing and tone I enjoyed in Knight of Knives. They also brought something that I found similar in style between the two books, and that is they gave us much more on the different elements of the Malazan world that were lightly referenced in Malazan Book of the Fallen. So we're going to specific settings that we knew about, we heard about, but we didn't know much about, and now we do, while clearly still being tied into everything we were learning in Malazan Book of the Fallen. Now, this included more about the Crimson Guard, so yeah, bring it. This is kind of a through point. We're going to keep having some of this Crimson Guard stuff. That is obvious now and well on display in Book 5. Now, Book 5 here, Blood and Bone, is distinctly different in pacing and style from books 3 and 4, yet fantastic in its own way. So, what are the details? The genre is epic fantasy, like everything else in Malazan world. What is this about? Okay, here's a summary. It's a jungle adventure story. It's focused on key plot advancements for the Crimson Guard, huge advancements for their story, while also giving us valuable information on the mysterious goddess, the Queen of Dreams, also known as the Enchantress. We learn about some rogue elements of the Malazan army, and we get so much more. At the same time, there is considerable emphasis on a story all wrapped up in the natives of the continent that this takes place on, this jungle continent of Jakaruku. And these natives, they're humans, and not so human. There's others involved, and there's maybe proto-humans or neo-humans, or I don't know what word I want to give you, but magic's involved. Because we have new magic players we're finding in Jakaruku here, things that are totally new to our experience as Malazan readers. Part of what is special about this book is that the disparate plot points that come up from the Guard, the Malazans, the enchantress. They all come together far into the story while also tying into the natives, the indigenous people of Jakaruku and their past, which ends up directly tied to the prologue of Memories of Ice and involving, of all people, Kalor, the High King. Awesome! The setting is the continent of Jakaruku that I just mentioned, an ancient and mysterious land mostly covered by a dense and dark rainforest jungle. This is a land that sane people generally avoid, for good reason. The records of exploration that exist are few, are quite sketchy, and include nonsense that most consider fanciful and exaggerated. Oh, if only that were true. This was a creative yet darkly and dangerously accurate description of jungle dangers and really lent a ton to the narrative. I give this setting a 5 out of 5. As to the depth of the plot, Esslemont once again channels a strength both he and Erikson share. Multiple plot threads, each rich and distinct, coming together in an impactful and powerful conclusion. There were so many different narrative elements that I got engaged in while reading this book, which I really wanted to know more about. There's never a boring moment in this story. Okay, that's not quite true. The beginning meanders a little bit, but you reflect back on it and you're not bored. You love everything that you just read through. And some of the twists, the shocks, the surprises, they really hit you. You don't see them coming, but you can reflect back and see how they were foreshadowed. It was just subtle. This is another Malazan story with many layers, perfect for another perspective on depth. Definitely 5 out of 5 for the setting. Now, as to the characters, where do I start? We've got Crimson Guard on full display here, including some that we've met before, such as Kaaz and Skinner, yet many others who are new to us and just lovely to discover and see what they bring. And Esslemont gives us rich dialogue and complex motivations to all the characters that he brings to us. We see Malazan soldiers being Malazan soldiers, including the mages, Merc and Sour, who were awesome. All this richness and entertainment that they bring, but also sucking you in. You can't help but rooting for the Malazans. We've got the people of Himatan, these indigenous people on Jakaruku, including Saeng and her brother, bringing an amazing element to this story, with dramatic impacts on it all. And then there are the thaumaturg. Oh man, Malazan words. Thaumaturgs, which I can't really get into in a spoiler-light book review. Just trust me, they bring another rich flavor to this story. And let's not forget about Ardata, the enchantress, her Segula bodyguard. I mean, there's all these different players. Elder gods, ascended beings, shards of the fallen god. Are you kidding? So much! My favorite part is how things ended for the Crimson Guard in this story. Not that it ends for the Crimson Guard, don't get me wrong, but something ends, and the Guard now we get clearly will be the major, or at least a major focus of the final book Esslemont has written in this series called Assail, which I'll be getting to soon. But the characters, 5 out of 5 for this book. As to writing style, Erikson and Esslemont, they have much in common regarding their writing style, including a focus on characters, deep themes, and incredible action sequences. I find Esslemont's writing a little lighter in that my brain doesn't hurt at the same level as Erikson causes. That's probably due to the writing not being quite as dense and a little more action-focused. I like it. I love Erikson's, but I love Esslemont for different reasons. They're both excellent, and I find they complement each other really well as you continue to work through your experiences reading Malazan books. I think what impresses me most about Esslemont's style is how well he interconnects not only the characters and actions of the current story, but with all of his previous novels and with everything that Erikson has written previously. It's just seamless and brilliant and feels so right. Again, 5 out of 5. As for themes, we've got a variety of them. Some that jump out to me the most in this book are a clash of cultures. We get to see a master class on what happens when outsiders come upon indigenous people and nobody understands each other, thus nobody respects each other. Everyone sees themselves as superior to the other and with agendas that can take priority, and it's a mess. In this case, when we've got these different cultures, different backgrounds not respecting each other, it is much to their peril, especially for the outsiders. They are most definitely not welcome in Jakuruku. Then there's power and corruption. This is a common theme in epic fantasy, heck, in most fantasy, and it's demonstrated strongly here. Among those of Jakuruku and those from elsewhere. Those seeking power or striving to retain power are driven to the most heinous acts at times, all for the greater good, and that's just not good. Then we've got don't mess with nature because it just don't care. The setting of a jungle gives a great illustration for this. The world is bigger than the measly people seeking to rule all they survey, and it will chew you up and spit you out, and it won't barely even notice. Now, that's kind of true in our world. We don't respect nature to the degree we should, and people do pay the price at times. A final theme I'll highlight is human shortcomings and the ability to find redemption for past mistakes. Multiple characters in this story demonstrate how, because of their own petty desires and wants, they can make choices that are really not well thought, too self-centered, not considered for the full impact. And when given the chance, some leap at a chance to redeem themselves, to earn redemption, find redemption, do something to try to make it right. And then others say, nope, don't care. I'm in it for me. And it doesn't tend to work out well for them. It doesn't always work out for those who seek redemption, but sometimes it does. And even if you fall short, trying to earn redemption, it's better than not trying at all. That's what comes through from this. Warnings in this book, I'd say overall it's a pretty tame fantasy book, particularly for epic fantasy. The only warning I'd really give regards violence. I mean, there are certainly many battle scenes with the deaths and damage that entails. I didn't find it too gratuitous, but if you don't like violence, okay, you're going to have to deal with some of this book. For rating, overall for this book, I struggled a little bit. I tend toward the positive with what I read. I want to try to be realistic and fair on the ratings as I continue producing more book reviews, but sometimes I'm just like, I love the book, give it a 5, give it a 5. And sometimes I'm perhaps a little over-optimistic. This one, man, I really want to give it a 5 out of 5. But nope, I'm going with 4.5, which is a super strong score. The reason is the start of the book. It didn't grab me instantly. I had to warm up to the style of this one, the shift of pacing and approach as compared to the previous two in the series. So simply because it didn't grab me instantaneously, I'm going to hold it to the 4.5. But that's the only ding I loved this novel. Now, if you loved my review about it, this is when you get to tell me. Hit that like button, please. And if you haven't subscribed yet, Zach and I hope you do, and check out all the other videos we have on here. There's something for anybody. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you next time.